So I heard a story at work recently that honestly stuck with me. So this man told me about one of his friends that's a university professor in finance. This professor was holding a lecture with his students, and as he was teaching and as everyone was on their laptops taking notes, he approached one student in the front of the room. He looked him dead in the eyes and he said, "Everything you're spending 4 years in college learning is right here on my phone. What I want to hire in an employee is someone who knows how to look me in the eyes and talk to me." And I honestly haven't stopped thinking about that story since. Because what does that really mean for us? Those of us right now that are in college. Welcome back to Find Your Power podcast. I am your host, Avery Jane. And in today's episode, I want to be clear that I do not have the answers. Honestly, I'm just trying to figure everything out just as you are, especially with everything with AI coming out now and everyone's different opinions towards AI especially. I don't have the answers, but I am here to just kind of figure it out, talk with you guys, and I do want you guys as well to know that if you're struggling with these thoughts about AI taking over, there's no point in your future career, there's no point in you being in college, and all that in between. I want you to know you're not alone in thinking this way. This is pretty much going through everyone's minds right now, a lot of college students' minds especially, and we're honestly just all figuring this out together. So I know I'm not the only one recently who has heard everyone saying how AI is taking over our jobs, taking over our future careers, taking over our lives practically. There won't be any jobs left, and degrees won't even matter. Because to me, that's what that story sounded like in the beginning. That's what the man at my work who told me that story, that's what it sounded like to me. That degrees won't even matter. The knowledge that we're learning in college is not going to matter because we have access to all of that knowledge just within our fingertips. Not even just with AI, but with Google and all the other internet resources that we can use. So of course, it's going to feel pretty hard right now as someone who is in college to kind of feel motivated and also to see a future that is promising. Personally, for me, when I started college a few years ago, it was really before AI, I think, came out. I could be wrong, but at least it wasn't popular yet. And at this time, it felt much more promising. The future out there were so many opportunities. It didn't matter really what route I took, whatever route I was going to be on, there was going to be, for the most part, probably a job waiting for me out of college. And of course, this has always been something to consider, the job demand or job stability out there, especially fresh out of college. I think this has been something that many college students or post-college students have struggled with for many years, and this is not just due to AI. But now, with the introduction of AI and with the constant repetition of hearing that AI could be taking over so many jobs out there, that's definitely not helping our case, and it doesn't feel good, it doesn't sound good. So of course, it's kind of hard to stay motivated for a lot of us that are in college. And if you're kind of in that limbo feeling where you're like, what am I even working towards right now? Or having these thoughts of whatever you're working on, will it even matter in a few years? I just want you guys to know that you're not alone in this. That's why I decided to make this episode. I have been putting off this episode for a little while now, just because it's something that is pretty sensitive of a topic, because especially since I don't have the answers, I really am trying to figure this out just as much as you guys. But it is something I wanted to talk about because of the fact that I know that some of us just need to hear right now that we're not alone in this, and that there's a lot of people going through the same mindsets. And I can't be the only one seeing all of this on social media, especially with constant reminders of AI. And all the news outlets saying that every single job can be taken over. And of course, it is important to consider that there can be good that comes from this. Of course, there are good things that can come from AI, quote unquote, taking over the jobs, or some of them at least. But for those of us right now that are studying to get into our future careers and get into our future jobs, this doesn't feel great. It's definitely hard to give 100% to a future that you feel uncertain about. And I totally understand that, and I think that we need to acknowledge that. These kind of extreme takes that I've been seeing, I don't know if you guys have been seeing these as well on social media, but there is these extremes that are going out there that are like saying that everything in our society within the next 5 to 10 years is going to be automated, and there will be no more use for people in jobs, and people might not even have to work anymore. But I personally think that while some people, yes, may see this as a positive, that we won't need to work anymore. And at this extreme, if all the jobs are taken over, oh, look how amazing that might be, that everything is accessible to everyone and we may not even have to work and all of the jobs are going to be taken care of. But from my perspective, I don't see society letting that happen, just because I think there always needs to be some kind of imbalance in the way of society working and people within society working. Because if we're not working, then what are we doing? And also, I don't think the concept of money is going to just go away. So if we're not working, how are we going to be earning money to live? You know, currency is not something that was built years and years and years in the making, and now it's just going to vanish. I think it's definitely still going to be there, and the only way I can really see that happening is through some type of work. Also, this kind of mindset, or another extreme that was made as a point to this from this story that I was told about the professor, it kind of implies that college is useless. And I don't think this is the case at all whatsoever. I think that online there are a lot of cases when people kind of imply that college is useless, or maybe not useless, but a waste of money or an outdated concept. There's so many different viewpoints around college floating around, especially now, and many opinions that are floating around social media that I've seen, and I'm sure you guys have as well, at least a little bit. But the point I want to make when it comes to college is that the reason for someone going to college doesn't just have to be for their career. My perspective is that college can help you learn more about yourself, more about life, more about the world around you, the people around you, and this doesn't have to necessarily have anything to do with your future career. I think college is a good place to build freedom, build independence, especially if you are fresh out of high school. Maybe you're moving out of your parents' house. Maybe you are experiencing financial independence or just some other type of freedom on your own for the first time. And it also helps you to meet new people. And when it comes to meeting new people, this can turn into a whole nother subject that I actually am going to touch on probably for the next episode. But college is also a really good way to make connections with people in the way of networking as well. So yes, that is slightly towards your future career, and it can be, but networking doesn't always have to be towards your career. It can be making connections to new friendships that don't have to benefit you in a career standpoint at all whatsoever, but also making connections with other people that can help you out and you can help them out in other aspects of life that doesn't have to do with career. Either way, I think there are a lot of benefits to college, and they doesn't all include just working towards your future career. And yes, that's a big one. Learning specifics about your future career, especially if you are in the medical field. This is something that we need to do, whether AI is quote unquote taking over it or not, because you don't want to be that doctor out there that has to look up the diagnosis using ChatGPT, right? So we do want to be smart about what we're learning and how we are putting in our effort to learn. But even if you're not in the medical field, even if you are in finance or business or engineering or some other types of arts or sciences or whatever you are in, it can be very beneficial and it can feel very empowering to know a lot more and not have to just turn to AI or turn to your phone or the internet for every answer that you're looking for. Being an intelligent person, whether you're learning from college or not, can be a very empowering thing. And I think that's something that we're starting to lose sight of a little bit as we see maybe people are starting to say that there's not as much of a reason to learn because of these certain jobs maybe being taken over. But my point in this is just to say that learning doesn't always have to be just for your career or for a financial benefit. Learning and knowledge can be beneficial to you as a person in the way that you live life, the way that you go about life, the way that you build connections with others, and it can also just boost self-esteem and confidence as well. So I know that if you have been seeing all of these things online recently about AI, you've probably been feeling pretty anxious. I know that I feel this when I see these posts a lot. Maybe you start to compare your own future career path and what you're working towards to the ones that maybe aren't going to be as taken over by AI from what we know. And maybe you start to question your direction that you're in, or maybe even just start to give up on your current direction. But I want to remind you guys that this uncertainty of what will happen when we get out of college, this happens with every major shift. This isn't the first time that this has happened. Maybe this is a different type of shift with AI. Maybe this is different now than it has been in the past, but it's not completely new. There has been many major shifts in the world, especially towards college students or students when they get out of college, through technology or through the internet or through industrialization. There has been many big shifts, and of course it's hard to say what this one is going to look like in comparison with all of those, how big this is going to be and whatnot. We don't really know that yet, but it is fair to say that this is something that's not completely new to us, as each generation has their own big major shift that they have had to work through. And just as they've gotten through it, we're going to be able to get through this one. Now, as much as it sounds like I've just talked bad about AI for this whole episode so far, I do kind of want to shed a little bit of light on it because it's not entirely negative. The truth is, AI is here now, and there's not really much going back or taking it back. I'm not really sure if that's even possible. Maybe they'll try, maybe that's not going to happen, but either way, I think it's here, and that's something we're going to have to mentally deal with if you haven't already. And it likely will be used in almost every career field. But this doesn't necessarily mean it's going to take over every career field. It might just be used as a resource, especially when it comes to efficiency, automation, and speed, because it's something that is beneficial in those ways. So I do kind of want to make the point that if you're not learning how to use AI and everyone else around you is learning how to use it, you might start to fall behind. And I'm not saying this in a way to try to scare you, but I do want to help you realize that this is something we do kind of need to work with now that it is here, and it's not going away. And it's likely not going away. So I want to encourage you to use AI to benefit yourself. Use AI to get ahead where you can. Of course, be morally sound with it, but using AI in the way that other people are to kind of benefit you and using it as a resource, because many people are starting to do this now in career fields. And I don't think this is something that's necessarily very negative. It's the same way that we use internet today. This same idea of when the internet first started. I'm sure many people were scared to use it at all, as other people started to use it as a resource and incorporate it into their jobs and careers. The people that were not using it at all probably fell a bit behind. And I think this is the same type of idea when it comes to AI. So realistically, AI can actually save you time. It can reduce busy work. When you have this extra busy work that you have to do, maybe it's like just organizing your data into a project, some type of thing like that, you can consider using AI to just save you time. And it can also help you learn faster. Honestly, I do use it already within my classes, not to tell me answers, but to help me learn. When it comes to taking notes for certain classes, I'm given PowerPoint slides with over 100 slides on it each, which I'm going to be tested on all of that information for my exams. So what I have actually started doing is using AI as a resource to summarize the PowerPoint slides in the beginning and then diving deeper into detail afterwards. Because in my way, this has really helped me as first getting the general idea of what I need to learn and then going into it more in detail. And I've already found that this has been very beneficial for me in learning what I need to learn. So doing little things like that, even just quizzing myself, asking AI to give me quiz questions and giving it my material that I need to learn, asking it to quiz me on these certain subjects or this certain material, giving me practice questions and whatnot. Things like this can be very beneficial to help you even learn faster. And it also can help you create more. Maybe you have ideas of things that you want to create, projects that you want to start on or initiate, but you don't exactly know where to start or how to design them, or maybe an outline for getting it started. You can always ask AI or ChatGPT or whatnot to help you get started in that. Gemini, I know, is also a good, useful resource. And that's not taking away from your creativity. It's also not taking away from your opinions or you as a person, your individuality. It's not taking away from any of that. It just can be useful as a resource to help you put your thoughts together, help you put your own personal opinions, your own thoughts as a person into a more formatted outline or graph or project in whatever you're working on. I do want to help you guys kind of shift this perspective a little bit, and whether this is completely true or not, honestly, like I said, I don't have the answers, but sometimes shifting perspective is the only best way to kind of keep us sane and keep us motivated and keep us going when things look so uncertain and look so unclear. If we don't have the right answer, we don't have the directions, shifting perspective is sometimes the best way to go about things. So I've found that when it comes to looking at AI, that's my best way of approaching it. I want to remind you that AI is likely not replacing people. It's replacing tasks that people do. And it's not going to be all tasks, and it's not going to be all of complete tasks. It's likely going to be those busy work things, those organization things when it comes to data, when it comes to content online that humans create, and AI is there to organize. And of course, there are things also that AI can create, but it's not creating anything new. It's always completely using data and information that's already out there that people have created to create in a way. But it's not creating anything that it hasn't seen before to an extent. With that being said, I do want to remind you guys everything that AI cannot replace. Because just like the story that I had in the beginning of this professor that made this point, AI cannot replace communication. It cannot replace confidence. It cannot replace people being present. This is something that I think even if AI starts to replace many jobs out there, this is something that people are going to start missing, is the presence of others and these social interactions. Another thing that AI cannot replace that I want to really stress is emotional intelligence. This is something that people are always going to have a leg up on because we can be emotional, whereas AI cannot. But to the professor's point in saying that everything that this student was spending 4 years in college learning is on the phone, knowledge is accessible. It is very accessible now, especially with AI, but it was pretty much just as accessible with the internet and social media and everything like that. But being a human and being who we are as individuals is not replaceable. The thing that we are going to start realizing, if we haven't already as people, is that yes, information is everywhere, but real human connection is becoming more rare. And this is something that we're going to start missing more of. And I think we need to realize that having real human connection is very important to us, how we live our lives, being happy, and also being human. So, what exactly are we supposed to do? Now that we know that AI is there, it's here, it's happening, it could be replacing our future jobs. Maybe it's not, but we definitely have to incorporate it, definitely have to use it in some type of way. If you are in college now, or a student of some sort, or maybe you are in your job or your career, but you are worried about AI taking over your current job, I want to encourage a few things that you can focus on to make yourself stand out a little bit more against AI and against the internet as more of a person and as something that you can do that AI cannot. This is learning how to think, not just memorize. Because when we know information, because we thought it through, especially when it comes to school and learning in your classes or even in your job, if you know something and you know why it is that way, you are even more valuable than just knowing that something is this way, but you don't know why. Working on your communication skills is another one that AI cannot give to people. Of course, you can talk with ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever. You can talk with them, but it's definitely not the same. And working on your actual communication skills as a person and as a human can be very beneficial. Learning to adapt to what's around you, whether this is AI or maybe this is going to be a slightly different career title that you thought you were going to go for. Maybe this is a slightly different job that you didn't even know about. But learning to adapt to what might be or what could become of this new shift is also going to really help you out. And that kind of leads to being open to change. I know this is a difficult time. It is for all of us in regards to this big change that kind of just feels like it came out of nowhere, kind of just dropped this bomb on us, especially for those of us that are in school right now, working towards something, especially a few years in. It doesn't feel nice. It doesn't feel welcoming, even. Like, why are we having this big thing happen right now? Like, wow, perfect timing. But being open to this potential change that's going to happen with maybe your new career that you might need to shift into, you don't know if maybe this new career or this change that's going to happen for you is going to be even better than what you could have expected. And with that, I also want to encourage you guys, like I said before, to use AI. You know, if you're in college, use it as a study tool, like I've started doing. I only started doing that because one of my other classmates told me that she was doing that, and she was doing better on the exams than I was. So I was like, okay, maybe it's time that I start doing this. Maybe use it. You can also use AI to brainstorm. If you have these ideas in your mind, but you can't quite put them into words or put them into exact thoughts, you can always use AI to kind of help you put your thoughts into words or into a project or into a design that you're thinking about. AI can help you learn faster in the way of what I said, with summarizing notes and then going into more detail later, maybe helping it quiz you, whatever you need to do with that. And also, something that I have used it for is talking through issues. Now, this isn't something that I would recommend with all issues. There's some issues out there that it's best to talk to with a real person, especially if this is something that is really hard on you or something that is affecting your mental health. I would advise you to seek a real professional's advice and input. Talk to someone that's human about it. But when it comes to little things, I actually have used AI occasionally to work out things in my mind. One of these things that I used AI for not too long ago, I think it was only like a week or two, was this one thing that had been bothering me in my mind and I had been kind of dwelling on. It was honestly more of a slight mistake that I might have made, and I wanted to approach the idea of how this mistake could be resolved or how bad it really was. Because of course, there's a lot of times when we might make a mistake and then in our mind it feels like, oh my goodness, this was the worst mistake ever and I'm not even going to be able to come back from that, and whatever, you just start spiraling. And this was the type of thing that I knew could have been the case. So I really did just ask AI about this mistake and see its viewpoint, and using it to kind of give me ideas on how I can go to resolve this. And this is something, yeah, of course, I could have talked to a person about as well, a real human. I could have talked to a human about this as well, but it was something really minor, and it was also something that I hadn't really talked to anyone else about. So anyways, this just goes to say that depending on what it is, you can also use it to kind of work through your ideas and work through anything that might be bothering you. Of course, if it's a bigger thing, like I said, you might want to talk to a person about this, but sometimes you just need something quick and handy to work through your thoughts, and that can be a resource. So I want to remind you guys that maybe it's not always about competing with AI like we are trying to do right now. At least I know a lot of us are, if you are in college. Maybe it's actually learning how to work alongside AI. And I do want to just leave you guys with a few more reassurances, a few more things that you can kind of keep in the back of your mind as you go about studying, as you go about your job, and as you kind of work around and through this new change in our world, in our society. If you've been feeling unmotivated or unsure about your future, I want to remind you that you're not alone. And we are in a very weird transition period right now, but no one really has it fully figured out. So we're all working through this together. I just want to remind you guys that your degree is not useless. Whatever you're working towards right now is not a waste of time. You are benefiting yourself, whether that's for your career or not. You are learning and you are growing as a person, and AI cannot take that away from you. Your effort is not wasted, but it is true that things are changing right now. And it is important that we be able to adapt and that we be open to change, because our careers may need to evolve to an extent. But this does not have to be for the worse. Your career change or career evolving could be better than you would have ever expected. Just keep working, keep pushing, and just know that we're all figuring this out together. That does conclude today's episode of Find Your Power. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that this episode left you with a little bit more clarity and a little bit less anxiety when it comes to what could be with the future and with AI. Tune in every Thursday to listen or watch on YouTube or Spotify. And if you would like to just listen to the podcast, I'm on Audible, Amazon Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Also check out the Instagram or the TikTok at findyourpower_podcast. Thank you guys again for supporting. I appreciate you all for being here and listening today. If you enjoyed the podcast, please rate it 5 stars wherever you listen and stream, and follow the podcast on Spotify or Apple, or subscribe on YouTube. It really helps the podcast grow. Also, if you'd like to be featured for an interview, you can send me an email at the email linked in the podcast description section, or even just a conversation we can have on the podcast as well. I will talk to you guys again soon, next Thursday. And don't forget, we will find your power.